The information provided in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment from a qualified healthcare provider. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have seen in this presentation. Reliance on any information provided in this video is solely at your own risk. Have you ever had one of those days where you feel like you're a smartphone with 1% battery left? You're technically still on, still functioning, but you know that one more notification, one more app opening, one more request is going to shut you down completely. You're just surviving. You're pushing through meetings, making dinner, answering emails, but inside you're running on fumes. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. Not even close. Right now, over 40 million adults in the United States are dealing with an anxiety disorder. That's nearly 1 in 5 people. And millions more are grappling with burnout, depression, and a crushing sense of being overwhelmed. We've been told to hustle harder, to optimize our lives, to be more productive, and we've ended up optimized for exhaustion. We know something has to change, but the idea of fixing ourselves feels like another overwhelming project on an already impossible to-do list. Where do you even begin? That's the question that paralyzes so many of us. And that's the exact question this series is designed to answer. We're going to cut through the noise, the confusing advice, and the pressure to make massive, life-altering changes overnight. Forget the $5,000 wellness retreats and the complicated 10-step morning routines that require you to wake up at 4 a.m. This is your roadmap back to yourself. Over the next 10 parts, I'm going to give you simple, powerful, and actionable steps that you can start using today, right now, to begin the process of mental healing and genuine self-care. This isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about learning what to take off. It's about finding the quiet in the chaos and rediscovering the person you are underneath all the stress and expectations. I remember a time when my own life felt like a house where a hurricane had just torn through. Every room was a mess. There was emotional clutter everywhere. Unprocessed grief in the living room, professional anxiety piled high in the office, relationship stress spilling out of the kitchen. And I would stand in the middle of it all completely frozen. The sheer scale of the cleanup was so daunting that I did nothing. I just step over the piles and pretend they weren't there. Sound familiar? We do this with our mental health. We see the mountain of things we think we need to fix, our past trauma, our bad habits, our negative self-talk, and we get so overwhelmed we just shut down and keep stepping over the piles. But what if I told you that you don't have to clean the whole house at once? What if the path to a clear mind, to a sense of peace, starts with just picking up a single piece of trash? That's the secret. The journey of 1,000 miles doesn't just begin with a single step. It's made up entirely of single steps, taken one after the other. This series is about showing you exactly where to place that first foot, and then the next and the next. Before we take that first step, we need to dismantle a huge lie we've been sold. It's the lie that self-care is selfish, or that it's a luxury. We see pictures of bubble baths and spa days and we think, I don't have the time or the money for that. But true foundational self-care has nothing to do with indulgence. It's not about escaping your life. It's about being able to fully live it. It's about maintenance, not luxury. You wouldn't call changing the oil in your car selfish, would you? You wouldn't call charging your phone an indulgence. It's necessary maintenance so the thing can do its job. You are no different. Self-care is the necessary maintenance you perform on yourself so that you can show up in the world, for your family, for your job, for your community, as the best, most resilient version of yourself. It's the most fundamental act of self-respect. So where do we start? With all the noise and all the pressure, what is that first single piece of trash we pick up off the floor? It's not what you think. The first step towards healing isn't an action at all. It's the opposite. It's a pause. That's it. That's the secret foundation for everything we're going to build together. I call it the foundational pause. Think about your life right now. It's a constant stream of input, reaction, and momentum. The alarm goes off, you react. An email comes in, you react. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you react. Your kid spills milk, you react. We live in a state of constant, automatic reaction, driven by stress, habit, and adrenaline. Our nervous systems are perpetually in fight or flight mode, even when we're just sitting at our desks. We're like a train barreling down the tracks with no one in the engineer's seat. The foundational pause is you climbing back into that seat and gently, for the first time in a long time, pulling the brake. It's about creating a tiny sliver of space between the trigger and your response. Space between the stressful thought and your emotional spiral. Space between the chaos of the world and the core of who you are. In that space, you find power. In that space, you get to choose your response instead of letting your automatic programming choose for you. Why is this so powerful? Because it interrupts the momentum of anxiety. Anxiety and stress thrive on speed and autopilot. They want you to keep running, to keep reacting, so you don't have a moment to question them. When you intentionally stop, even for just 5 seconds, you disrupt that pattern. You're sending a signal from your conscious brain back to your primal, panic nervous system that says, hey, it's okay. We are not being chased by a tiger right now. You can stand down. So how do we do it? This is not meditation. You don't need a cushion or a quiet room. You can do this right now while you're listening to me. You can do it in traffic, in a meeting, in the middle of an argument. It's a simple physiological reset. I want you to just try it with me. We're going to do a simple box breath. I want you to slowly breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. 1, 4. Now hold that breath at the top for a count of 4. 1, 4. Now slowly exhale through your mouth for a count of 4. 1, 4. And finally, hold the breath out at the bottom for a count of 4. 1, 4. Let's do it one more time. In 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. What you just did was manually take control of your autonomic nervous system. That slow, controlled exhale stimulates something called the vagus nerve, which is the superhighway of your body's relaxation response. It's like flipping a switch that tells your body to move from that high alert, fight or flight state to a calm, rest and digest state. You just told your body with your breath that you are safe. This is your first tool. This is the first piece of trash you pick up. Your only job, your only homework until the next part of this series, is to practice the pause. Set a reminder on your phone for 3 times a day. When it goes off, no matter what you are doing, you stop. You take 2 of those box breaths. That's it. You're not trying to solve all your problems. You're not trying to feel blissfully happy. You are simply practicing the art of stopping. You are creating a moment of intentional stillness in the hurricane of your day. You are building the foundation. Because once you master this pause, once you can create that tiny sliver of space on demand, everything else becomes possible. In that space, we can begin to examine the stories you tell yourself. We can start to untangle the knots of your past. We can choose to install new habits and new beliefs. But it all, every single bit of it, starts with the courage to simply stop. Your healing doesn't start next week or tomorrow or after you finish that big project. Starts now. Starts in the very next breath you take. So take it. Take that breath. Right now. Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, I want you to understand something profound. That single conscious breath is the most powerful tool you have. It's a pattern interrupt. It's a sacred pause. It's the space between the stimulus and the response where your freedom lives. We spend our entire lives reacting. The alarm clock buzzes, we react. An email lands in our inbox, we react. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and we definitely react. We are a bundle of conditioned responses, running on a script written years ago by our experiences, our fears, and our pain. And stopping, truly stopping, feels impossible because the machine is designed to just keep going. So the very first practical step on this journey isn't to change everything. It's not to force positive thoughts or to suddenly become a different person. It's much quieter, much simpler, and infinitely more powerful. It is the practice of radical self-observation. I want you to think of yourself not as the actor in the chaotic movie of your life, but as the audience. You're just watching the film unfold. You're not judging the main character, you're not yelling at the screen, you're not trying to rewrite the script. You're just watching, with curiosity. Imagine you're standing on the edge of a massive, rushing river. This river is the constant flow of your thoughts, your emotions, your anxieties, your to-do lists. For years you've been swept up in that current, thrashing around, trying to swim against it, trying to grab onto a branch, convinced that if you stop fighting for even a second, you'll drown. Radical self-observation is the act of simply stepping out of the river and sitting on the bank. You're not trying to stop the river. You can't. You're not trying to dam it up or change its course. You are just watching it flow by. You notice the speed of the current. You see the leaves and debris floating past. Those are your thoughts. You feel the spray on your face. Those are your emotions. But you are not the river. You are the witness on the bank. For the first time, perhaps in your entire life, you are creating a separation between who you are and what you experience. You are not your anxiety. You are the one who is noticing the feeling of anxiety. You are not your anger. You are the one who is aware of the sensation of anger. You are not the negative thought that says you're not good enough. You are the consciousness that is hearing that thought. This separation, this tiny gap you create, is everything. It's the crack where the light gets in. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's it? Just watch? How does that solve anything? That feels passive. That feels like doing nothing. And your mind is right to object, because your mind is a professional problem solver. It's a magnificent tool designed to analyze, judge, fix, and control. When you just observe, you're taking away its primary job, and it will protest. It will throw every distraction it can at you. It will tell you this is stupid, that it's a waste of time, that there are a million more important things you should be doing. And your job is to simply notice that, too. You can say to yourself, there's the thought that this is stupid. How interesting. I'm going to watch that thought float down the river, too. This is not passivity. It is the highest form of action. Because in that space of observation, the automatic chain reaction is broken. The trigger no longer leads directly to the same old painful response. A trigger happens, a critical comment, a stressful memory, a wave of panic, and instead of instantly reacting with anger or shame or fear, you pause. You step onto the riverbank. You watch. You breathe. You are no longer a slave to the trigger. You've just introduced a moment of choice. And in that moment of choice lies all of your power. So how do we do this in a practical, real-world way, when life is coming at you 100 miles an hour? We use an anchor. And our most reliable, ever-present anchor is the breath. I want to give you a tool right now that you can use anytime, anywhere. It's called the 3-breath anchor. It takes less than 30 seconds. When you feel that familiar wave of overwhelm or anger or anxiety begin to rise, I want you to stop and take 3 slow, conscious breaths. And with each breath, you will have a specific job. With the first breath, as you inhale and exhale, your only job is to notice your physical body. Scan it from head to toe. Where is the tension? Is your jaw clenched? Are your shoulders up by your ears? Is there a tightness in your chest or a pit in your stomach? Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Just notice it. My jaw is tight. My stomach feels like a knot. You are simply gathering data like a scientist. You are mapping the physical landscape of your current experience. Now take the second breath. As you inhale and exhale this time, your job is to notice your emotions. Give them a name, but without the story attached. We have a habit of saying, I am angry because he said that thing. Or, I am anxious because of that deadline. For this one breath, just label the raw feeling. This is anger. This is sadness. This is fear. By naming it, you tame it. You take this big, scary, amorphous blob of feeling and you give it a label. You're not the blob. You're the one holding the label maker. It separates you from the emotion just enough to see it clearly. Finally, take the third breath. On this last inhale and exhale, your job is to notice your thoughts. See them for what they are. Sentences popping into your head. Electrical impulses in your brain. They are not objective reality. They are not commandments. They are clouds drifting through the vast sky of your awareness. Watch them. There's the thought that I'm going to fail. There's the thought that they don't respect me. There's the thought that I can't handle this. You don't have to grab onto them. You don't have to believe them. You are the sky, not the clouds. The clouds will always pass. Body, emotion, thought, 3 breaths. That's it. What you're doing on a neurological level is fascinating. When you're triggered, your amygdala, the brain's primitive alarm system, hijacks your mind. It screams danger and floods you with stress hormones, preparing you for fight, flight, or freeze. You can't think clearly. You can't access reason. You just react. This simple 3-breath anchor technique acts as a circuit breaker. It disengages the amygdala's panic grip and brings your prefrontal cortex, the rational, wise, thinking part of your brain, back online. You are literally moving from the reactive, survival-driven part of your brain to the evolved, conscious part of your brain. You are taking yourself out of the passenger seat of a runaway car and putting yourself back in the driver's seat. This is the foundational skill of all mental healing. Before you can change your thoughts, before you can heal your wounds, before you can build new habits, you must first learn to see what is actually there. Without judgment, without shame, with simple, honest, compassionate awareness. You have to be able to sit on the riverbank and watch the water before you can ever learn to navigate it. So your practice, your only homework until our next step, is this: become the curious observer. Try the 3-breath anchor when you feel stressed. Try it when you're standing in line for coffee. Try it when you first wake up. Just notice. Notice the tightness in your shoulders, the worry in your mind, the frustration in your heart. Don't fix it. Don't fight it. Just see it. Greet it almost like an old acquaintance. Ah, anxiety. There you are again. This practice of creating space, of stepping out of the river, is the single most important gift you can give yourself. Because once you've created that space between the trigger and the reaction, a new question becomes possible. A question that changes everything. Now what? What do I choose to do with this space? How do I begin to question the thoughts floating down that river? That is where we start to dismantle the old machine and build a new one. This process of dismantling begins not with a sledgehammer, but with a magnifying glass. Before you can rebuild, you have to understand the blueprints of the old machine. You have to see the gears, the levers, the faulty wiring that's been running your reality on a loop. And the most fundamental, most powerful first step is to simply learn to name what you're seeing. Think about it. For years, maybe your whole life, that river of thoughts has just been a murky, overwhelming torrent. A chaotic rush of feeling and anxiety. But what if you could learn to identify the specific currents? What if you could point to a piece of driftwood and say, "Oh, that's a fear of failure log." Or see a slick of oil and say, "That's a self-criticism spill." Suddenly, it's not just a terrifying, all-consuming river anymore. It's a body of water with distinct, understandable components. These components have a name. Psychologists call them cognitive distortions, but I prefer to call them thought traps. Because that's what they are. They are sneaky, well-worn mental shortcuts that our brains, in an attempt to be efficient, fall into. They feel true. They feel like us. But they are not reality. They are funhouse mirrors, distorting the world and our place in it. And once you learn to spot them, you can never unsee them. Their power over you begins to dissolve. So let's meet some of the most common culprits. Let's make this real. Imagine a person, let's call her Alex. Alex is smart, capable, and works hard at her job. But inside, her mind is a minefield of these thought traps. One morning, Alex gets an email from her boss about a report she submitted. The email says, "Great work on this, Alex. The data is solid. Just one small suggestion. Could you rephrase the conclusion on page 12 to be a bit more direct? Otherwise, this is perfect." Now, a neutral observer sees this as overwhelmingly positive feedback. 99% praise. But Alex's mind doesn't see that. The first thought trap snaps shut. It's called all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking. Her internal monologue isn't, "Okay, cool, a quick easy fix." It's, "I failed. This report is a failure. See what happened?" There's no room for nuance. There is no gray area. In the world of all or nothing thinking, things are either perfect, a total success, or they are an absolute disaster, a complete failure. If you get an A-, you might as well have gotten an F. If you stick to your diet all day but have one cookie, the entire day is ruined and you're a failure. It's a brutal, unforgiving standard that sets you up for a constant feeling of inadequacy. Because perfection is impossible. Alex's brain latched onto the one tiny critique and used it to invalidate all the positive work. The entire report was mentally thrown into the failure bin because of a single sentence. But it doesn't stop there. One thought trap often triggers another like a chain reaction. As Alex sits there staring at the email, her heart starting to beat a little faster, the next trap springs. This one is a monster. It's called catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is taking one negative event and spinning it into the absolute worst-case scenario. It's our brain's disaster movie director. Alex's thoughts don't just stay on the report. They leap into the future. My boss thinks I'm incompetent. She's probably regretting hiring me. What if she starts looking at all my other work more closely? She'll find other mistakes. I'm definitely going to be on the list for the next round of layoffs. I'll lose my job. How will I pay my rent? I'll have to move back in with my parents. My career is over. I'm a fraud. Look at that spiral. It went from a minor suggestion about a single sentence to career-ending homelessness in under 30 seconds. This is the signature of catastrophizing. It's the what-if game on steroids, and it always ends in maximum disaster. It hijacks your nervous system, putting you into a state of fight or flight over a threat that is entirely manufactured in your own mind. The situation is a tiny hill, but the thought trap turns it into Mount Everest. Later that day, feeling defeated, Alex walks to the break room to get some coffee. She sees two of her colleagues talking by the counter. As she approaches, they quiet down and glance in her direction before saying a quick hello. Instantly, a third trap ensnares her. This one's called mind reading. Her brain, without a shred of evidence, decides it knows exactly what they were thinking. They were talking about me. They know about the report. They probably heard my boss complaining about my work. They think I'm a joke. They're laughing at me. Mind reading is the assumption that you know what other people are thinking, and it's almost always negative. We project our own fears and insecurities onto them. The reality could be anything. They could have been talking about a TV show, a confidential work project, or what they're having for lunch. Their glance could have been simple acknowledgement. But the mind-reading trap doesn't consider those possibilities. It jumps to the most painful conclusion and treats it as fact. It creates entire narratives of social rejection and judgment out of thin air, leaving you feeling isolated and paranoid. Finally, at the end of the week, there's a team meeting. The manager announces that the team's big project missed its quarterly target by a small margin. It was an ambitious goal, and several external factors, like market changes and a vendor delay, played a role. The manager is upbeat, saying they'll readjust and hit it next quarter. But Alex hears this news and feels a pit in her stomach. The fourth trap, personalization, slams shut. Personalization is the tendency to take responsibility and blame for negative events that are not entirely, or even remotely, your fault. It's making everything about you. Alex's thought is immediate. This is because of me. That report I did, it was part of this. If I hadn't made that mistake, if I had just worked harder, we would have hit the target. I let the whole team down. She is now carrying the weight of a complex, multifaceted outcome entirely on her own shoulders. She ignores all the other factors, the market, the vendor, the contributions of a dozen other people, and makes the shortfall a direct reflection of her personal worth and effort. This trap is a direct path to guilt, shame, and a crushing sense of responsibility for things far beyond your control. All or nothing, catastrophizing, mind reading, personalization. These are just 4 of the most common thought traps, but they are powerful. They are the faulty gears in the machine. For Alex, and for so many of us, they run automatically in the background, coloring every interaction, every setback, every success. They are the invisible architects of our anxiety and self-doubt. So here is your task. It is simple, but it is not easy. It requires a new kind of attention. Your task is not to fix these thoughts, not to fight them, not to argue with them. Not yet. Your only job for now is to become a detective of your own mind. Your job is to listen. When you feel that familiar spike of anxiety, that wave of sadness, that flush of shame, pause. Rewind the mental tape by a few seconds and ask, what was the thought that just went through my mind? And can I give it a name? When your partner says they're too tired to go out and you immediately think, they don't love me anymore, can you pause and whisper to yourself, ah, that's mind reading. When you get a rejection for a job you applied for and think, I'll never get a job, I'm completely unemployable, can you take a breath and label it? Okay, that's catastrophizing. And a little bit of all or nothing thinking. This act of naming is profound. It's the difference between being lost in a storm and being a meteorologist observing a storm. You are no longer the thought, you are the one who is noticing the thought. By naming it, ah, that's personalization, you create that critical space we talked about. You are taking it out of the realm of absolute truth and putting it into a category of a known mental error. It's no longer a reflection of reality. It's just a thought trap. This is the foundation of everything that comes next. Learning to spot these traps in real time is the skill that unlocks the door to changing your relationship with your mind. You are learning the layout of the prison before you plan the escape. So become a spotter, an observer, a namer of thoughts. Get curious. Get familiar with the texture and flavor of your own specific brand of thought traps. Because once you can see them clearly, once you can name them the moment they appear on the horizon, then and only then can we begin to answer the next crucial question: what do I do about them? The answer, surprisingly, is nothing. First, the first thing you do about these thoughts is nothing at all. I know. That sounds completely counterintuitive. It sounds passive. Sounds like giving up. But it's the most powerful first move you can possibly make. Because for years, you've probably been doing the exact opposite. When a painful, anxious, or self-critical thought pops into your head, what's your first instinct? It's to fight it, to wrestle with it, to argue with it, prove it wrong, or desperately try to shove it out of your mind. You tell yourself, don't think that. That's a stupid thing to think. Or you immediately start listing all the reasons why that negative thought isn't true, getting into a full-blown debate with your own brain. And how has that been working out for you? If you're like most of us, it's exhausting. And it's ineffective. It's like trying to fight your way out of quicksand. The more you struggle, the more you flail, the faster you sink. The very act of fighting the thought gives it more power, more attention, more weight. It tells your brain, hey, this thing right here, this is incredibly important and dangerous. We need to focus on it constantly. And so the thought just gets stickier, louder, and more persistent. So we're not going to fight. We're going to do something far more radical. We are going to learn how to watch. Imagine your mind is a giant movie screen, and your thoughts are the movies that play on that screen 24/7. You don't control the programming. The movies just appear. Some of them are pleasant comedies, a happy memory, a fun daydream. Some are boring B-movies, what should I have for lunch, did I remember to lock the door? And some are terrifying, gut-wrenching horror films. These are your thought traps. The catastrophizing movie where a small mistake at work leads to you being homeless on the street. The black and white thinking movie where one critical comment means everyone hates you and you're a complete failure. For most of our lives, we don't realize we're watching a movie. We think we are the movie. We jump into the screen, become the main character, and feel every single punch, every monster's threat, every moment of despair as if it's our absolute reality. We're so fused with the story on the screen that we can't tell the difference between the thought and the truth. The first step in mental healing is learning to take a step back. To move from being the actor on the screen to being the person in the audience just watching the film. It's about creating a little bit of space between you, the conscious, aware person who is so much more than your thoughts, and the chaotic, often nonsensical chatter of your mind. How do we do this? It starts with one of the simplest, yet most profound linguistic tricks you will ever learn. It's a tiny shift in your internal language that changes everything. Instead of letting the thought run the show, you're simply going to label it. Let's go back to that thought trap of catastrophizing. Your boss sends you a short email. Can we talk for a few minutes this afternoon? Immediately, the horror movie starts playing. The thought isn't just a thought. It feels like a fact. I'm getting fired. That thought is followed by another. I'm going to lose my apartment. And another. I'm a total failure. You're in the movie. You're sweating, your heart is racing, you're living the terror on the screen. Here is the move. The moment you feel that spiral begin, you gently say to yourself, I am having the thought that I'm getting fired. Say it with me just to feel it. Not I'm getting fired, but I am having the thought that I'm getting fired. Do you feel the difference? It's subtle, but it's seismic. In the first statement, I'm getting fired, you are fused with the thought. You and the thought are one and the same. It is a declaration of fact. But in the second statement, I am having the thought that I'm getting fired, you've just created space. You are no longer the thought, you are the one noticing the thought. You've just moved from the movie screen into the audience. You've become the observer. Let's try it with another one. The black and white thinking trap. You give a presentation and one person in the room looks bored. The thought movie starts. That was a complete disaster. I'm a terrible public speaker. That feels heavy. Feels like an identity. Now let's apply the technique. I am having the thought that I'm a terrible public speaker. Or even better, you can get more specific. I am noticing my mind is telling me a story about how I'm a terrible public speaker. All of a sudden, it's not an absolute truth. Just a story. It's a movie playing on the screen of your mind. And just because a movie is playing doesn't mean it's a documentary. A lot of the time, our mind is playing pure science fiction. This technique is called diffusion. We are defusing ourselves from our thoughts. We're unsticking ourselves from the mental flypaper. This practice, this simple act of labeling your thoughts as thoughts, does a few incredible things. First, it immediately reduces their emotional power. When you see a thought as just a string of words and images passing through your mind, rather than an objective truth about reality, it loses its fangs. The monster on the screen is scary. The realization that you're just watching a movie with a monster in it? Not so scary. You can see the zippers on the costume. You can see the special effects. You can recognize it for what it is, a production of the mind. Second, it gives you a choice. When you are fused with a thought, when you believe I am a failure, your only option is to feel the pain of being a failure. But when you can step back and see, I am having the thought that I am a failure, you now have a moment. A tiny pocket of space opens up. And in that space, you can choose how to respond. You can choose to engage with the thought. You can choose to let it pass by like a cloud in the sky. Or you can choose to refocus your attention on something that actually matters in the present moment. You regain your power of choice. Now, a critical question might be popping into your head right now. But what if the thought is true? What if I really am about to get fired? This is not about toxic positivity or pretending that bad things don't happen. This technique is even more crucial in those moments. If there's a real problem to be solved, is it better to solve it from a place of panicked, fused emotional reaction? Or from a place of calm, clear-headed, observant awareness? Even if the movie playing is, "I am about to get fired," by noticing it as a thought, you can take a breath. You can step out of the terror of the movie and into the role of a problem solver. You can say, "Okay, my mind is playing the getting fired horror film right now, and it's really loud. That's understandable. Now, what are the actual practical steps I can take to prepare for this conversation? What can I control right now?" You move from being a victim of your thoughts to being an actor in your own life. This is your new practice. It's a mental muscle. First, it will feel strange. You'll forget to do it. Your thoughts will pull you back onto the screen again and again. That's okay. That's part of the process. The goal isn't to never get lost in the movie. The goal is to get better and faster at noticing when you are, and gently guiding yourself back to your seat in the audience. Each time you say, "I'm having the thought that," or "I'm noticing my mind is telling me a story about," you are doing one more rep. You are strengthening that muscle of awareness. This is the foundational skill. It is the art of creating space. Before we can change our thoughts, before we can challenge them or replace them, we must first learn to see them for what they are. Fleeting internal events. Not facts. Not orders. Not you. Just weather patterns in your mind. For the longest time, you've been living inside the storm. Now, you're learning how to be the mountain. You're learning to feel the wind and the rain of your thoughts without believing you are the wind and the rain. You are the stillness that they pass through. We've learned how to step out of the movie and take a seat in the audience. We've learned how to stop being a character swept up in the drama and become the calm observer. But this is just the first crucial step. Because once you're sitting in that audience, once you've created that space, you can start to ask some very interesting questions. You can start to look at that movie on the screen and say, "Is this story actually true? Is it helpful? And if I don't like this movie, can I change the script?" We've learned how to become the audience. Next, we're going to learn how to become the director. And becoming the director is one of the most powerful shifts you can ever make in your life. It's the difference between being a passive passenger in a car careening down a highway and being the one with your hands firmly on the wheel, choosing the destination. For too long, many of us have let a rogue amateur director run the show in our minds. This director is anxious, fearful, and obsessed with worst-case scenarios. It's the voice that casts us as the clumsy sidekick, the unlovable failure, or the perpetual victim in our own life story. Its favorite genres are tragedy and horror. It replays our most embarrassing moments in stunning high-definition slow motion and produces endless sequels to our biggest failures. But here's the secret. That director works for you. You are the executive producer. You have the power to fire them, or at the very least, to take over the director's chair yourself. So how do we do it? How do we step out of the audience, walk onto the set of our own mind, and yell, "Cut"? It starts with a process that psychologists call cognitive reframing, but let's stick with our metaphor. We'll call it rewriting the script. This isn't about pretending problems don't exist. This is not about toxic positivity, where you just slap a smiley face sticker on a house that's on fire. A good director doesn't ignore the drama or the conflict. They use it to create a more compelling, resilient, and ultimately triumphant story. Let me tell you about a woman named Jessica. For years, Jessica's internal movie was a disaster film. She was up for a promotion at work, a position she was more than qualified for. But the director in her head had already written the script. The opening scene was her, standing in front of her bosses, stammering, sweating, completely blanking on her presentation. The next scene was the letter of rejection. The final scene was her, sitting alone, convinced she was a fraud who had no business even trying. This movie played on a loop, a constant stream of anxiety and self-doubt. She was living in the audience of her own horror movie. Then she learned to become the director. The first thing she did was pause the film. The moment the familiar scene of her failing the presentation started to play, she yelled, "Cut!" Internally. She took a breath. And she picked up the script. The first step in rewriting the script is to identify the distorted storyline. You have to read the line that the old director wrote. For Jessica, the line was, "I'm going to completely bomb this presentation and everyone will think I'm an idiot." It's a powerful line. It's dramatic. Feels true. But a good director is also a good editor. They look at the script with a critical eye. So Jessica moved to step 2, cross-examining the script. She sat down and became a detective, looking for evidence. She asked herself a series of questions. Is it 100%, absolutely undeniably true that I will bomb this presentation? Well, no. She'd given good presentations before. What's the evidence that I'm competent? She made a list. She had successfully led projects, she had received positive feedback from her manager, she knew the material inside and out. She was literally holding evidence that contradicted the movie her brain was showing her. Then she asked the most important question a new director can ask. What is a more accurate, more helpful and more empowering story I can tell myself right now? This is step 3, the rewrite. This is where you, the director, take the pen. Jessica didn't rewrite the line to say, "This presentation will be the greatest speech in human history, and I'll be carried out on their shoulders." That's not a believable script. It's a fantasy, and our minds are too smart to fall for it. Instead, she wrote a new line. A real line. A line that was both true and helpful. Her new line was, "I am well prepared for this presentation. I know my stuff. It's normal to feel nervous, and that just shows that I care about doing a good job. I'm going to go in there, do my best, and whatever happens, I will handle it." Can you feel the difference? The entire energy of the scene changes. The genre shifts from horror to a drama about a capable person facing a challenge. She didn't eliminate the possibility of failure. She just changed her role from helpless victim to capable protagonist. She changed the story from one of certain doom to one of courage and resilience. This is a skill you can practice every single day. Think of your automatic negative thoughts as lines from a bad script. When your brain tells you, "I'll never find a partner, I'm going to be alone forever," that's the old director. Yell cut. Cross-examine that line. Is it absolutely true? Is it helpful? Then rewrite it. Dating can be difficult and discouraging, but I am a person worthy of love, and I will continue to be open to connection, while also building a life that I love on my own. When your brain tells you, "I messed up that conversation, now that person hates me," that's the old director. Yell cut. Challenge it. Are you a mind reader? Is there another possible interpretation of what happened? Rewrite it. I'm feeling anxious about how that conversation went. I can't control what they think, but I can trust that my intentions were good. If there's an issue, I can address it later. For now, I can let it go. Each time you do this, you are quite literally rewiring your brain. You are carving new neural pathways. You're taking the well-worn path of anxiety and despair and beginning to pave a new, wider road of self-compassion and realism. First, it feels unnatural. Feels like you're acting. The old director will keep trying to sneak back onto the set and shout directions. That's okay. Your job is to calmly and firmly escort them out. Sit back down in your chair and say, "Let's take it again from the top." With the new script, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. And more than that, you have the power to be the author of your thoughts. You can choose the story. You can decide the genre. You can pick the theme. The movie playing in your mind is not a documentary of objective reality. It is a production, and you are in charge of that production. You get to decide if it's a story of defeat or a story of getting back up, again and again. So the next time you feel that familiar wave of anxiety, that inner critic's voice, that doom and gloom movie starting to play on the screen of your mind, remember your new role. You're not just in the audience anymore. You are the director. You have the script in your hand, and you have the power to change the words. But rewriting the script is only the first part of making a new movie. A script is just words on a page until the actors bring it to life. You can write the most beautiful, empowering story in the world, but if you don't practice living it, it remains fiction. So, how do we take this new script and start rehearsing it until it becomes our new reality? How do we go from being the director to also being the lead actor in our own much better movie? It begins with a single step. Not a leap, not a bound. A single, deliberate, almost comically small step. Think about learning to walk. No baby ever just stands up and runs a 40-yard dash. They pull themselves up, they wobble, they fall. They try again. They take one shaky step. And that one step, repeated over and over, is what rewires their brain and builds the muscles needed for a lifetime of movement. Acting out your new script works the exact same way. You don't start by performing a one-man show on Broadway. You start by rehearsing a single line in front of the mirror. This is the principle of micro-actions. The art of the ridiculously small win. We're going to call it the 5-minute rule. It's this: for any new behavior you want to adopt, any part of your new script you want to make real, you commit to doing it for just 5 minutes. Not an hour. Not 30 minutes. 5. Because anyone can do almost anything for 5 minutes. The goal here isn't to transform your life in 5 minutes. The goal is to overcome the single biggest obstacle to change: inertia, the crushing weight of just getting started. Your anxious mind might scream, "The entire house is a disaster, I can't possibly clean it." The 5-minute rule whispers back, "You don't have to. Just clear off 1 square foot of the kitchen counter. Set a timer. 5 minutes. Your depressed mind might say, "What's the point of exercising? I have no energy." The 5-minute rule says, you don't have to exercise. Just put on your running shoes and walk to the mailbox and back. 5 minutes. Your self-critical mind might tell you, "You're not smart enough to learn that new skill." The 5-minute rule says, you don't have to master it. Just open the book and read 1 page. Watch the first 5 minutes of the tutorial. Why is this so powerful? Because it's a brain hack. When you're stuck in a negative loop, your brain's motivation center, the part fueled by dopamine, is essentially offline. It's waiting for a big, compelling reason to get going, but that reason never feels big enough to overcome the lethargy. A huge task like get in shape or organize my life is so intimidating that it triggers a threat response. Feels like a mountain, so your brain just shuts down to conserve energy. But a 5-minute task? A 5-minute task isn't a threat. It's a curiosity. It's manageable. And when you complete that tiny task, something magical happens. Your brain releases a small hit of dopamine. It's a reward. It's your brain saying, "Hey, we did a thing. That felt good." That tiny neurochemical reward is the kindling. It doesn't start a bonfire, but it creates a spark. And that spark makes the next 5-minute task a little bit easier. You're not just clearing a counter. You are literally building a new neural pathway. A pathway that says, action leads to feeling good. You are proving to your own nervous system in its own language that the new script is true. If your new script says, "I am a person who takes care of my space," clearing that counter is your first line of dialogue as that character. Let's get practical. Let's say the old story was, "I'm overwhelmed and my life is chaotic." The new script is, "I am creating a calm and orderly environment." Your 5-minute rehearsal is to pick up the 5 largest pieces of trash in your living room and put them in a bag. That's it. You're done for the day. You have successfully been the actor of your new role. Or maybe the old story was, "I'm disconnected and lonely." The new script is, "I am a person who nurtures my connections." The 5-minute rehearsal isn't to go to a party. It's to send 1 text message to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Just saying, "Hey, thinking of you. Hope you're well." That's it. You've rehearsed the part. Now the biggest lie your struggling brain will tell you is that you need to feel motivated before you can take action. It's the great myth of progress. We wait for inspiration to strike like lightning. But for most of us, most of the time, motivation isn't the cause of action. It's the result of it. Action is the spark plug. Motivation is the engine that turns over after the spark. You have to be willing to act without feeling like it. You have to do the thing and let the feeling of wanting to do it catch up later. Think of it like a rusty hand-cranked engine. The first few cranks are brutally difficult. They take all your effort. They feel pointless. But then it catches. The flywheel gains momentum. And soon the engine is running on its own, and it takes far less effort to keep it going. Your first 5-minute action is that first difficult crank. You are supplying the energy that your motivation system currently can't. To make this even easier, we can use a technique called habit stacking. This means you attach your new 5-minute habit to a habit you already do without thinking. Your existing habits are like sturdy hooks already drilled into the wall. It's much easier to hang your new habit on one of those hooks than to try and drill a new hole. For example, after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will sit down and write in a journal for 5 minutes. Pouring the coffee is the existing hook. Journaling is the new habit. The sequence becomes automatic. When I take off my shoes after work, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. The old habit triggers the new one. Before I turn on the TV at night, I will read a book for 5 minutes. You're creating an environmental and behavioral cue that does the heavy lifting for you, removing the need for willpower, which is always a finite resource. So look at your day. What are the things you do on autopilot? Brushing your teeth? Making your bed? Waiting for the microwave? These are your golden opportunities. After I brush my teeth, I will do 5 minutes of stretching. While the microwave is running, I will do 5 minutes of tidying the kitchen. You are designing a system where your desired behavior becomes the path of least resistance. And this is the secret that so many people miss. Healing and self-care are not about grand, heroic gestures. They are not about that one week-long yoga retreat or that one dramatic life overhaul. That's intensity. And intensity is fragile. Burns out. What we are building here is consistency. Consistency is anti-fragile. It compounds. 5 minutes a day doesn't sound like much. But 5 minutes a day is 35 minutes a week. It's over 30 hours in a year. 30 hours of meditating. 30 hours of learning an instrument. 30 hours of connecting with loved ones. 30 hours of building a body that feels strong. It is infinitely more powerful than the 0 hours you get from waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect amount of motivation. You are moving from being the director who just wrote a beautiful story to being the actor who shows up for rehearsal every single day. Even if it's just to say one line. You are proving to yourself, through the undeniable evidence of your own actions, that you are capable of change. You are building self-trust 1 5-minute block at a time. This isn't just about getting things done. It's about changing who you believe you are. But what happens when our environment, our own home or workplace, is actively working against us? How do we build a sanctuary that supports our healing, instead of a stage that keeps us stuck in the old play? That question is the key, because you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. It's like trying to dry off while you're still standing in the rain. We spend years, sometimes decades, trying to rewire our minds to change our beliefs, but we often ignore the most tangible, most influential factor in our daily lives: our physical space. Your home, your desk, even your car. They aren't just collections of objects. They are a physical manifestation of your mental state. A cluttered room is a cluttered mind. An environment filled with reminders of past failures is a constant, low-grade broadcast of your own inadequacy. Think of your personal space as a garden. For years, maybe you haven't been tending to it. Weeds of neglect have grown up. Old, dead plants from past seasons are still taking up space. The soil is dry and packed down, and you're standing in the middle of it, trying to convince yourself that you are a beautiful, vibrant flower. It's an impossible task. The environment itself is telling you a different story. It's telling you that you're forgotten, that you're not worth the effort, that things are too far gone to be saved. So the first, most radical act of self-care isn't meditation or journaling. It's becoming the gardener of your own life. It's about picking up a shovel and starting to work the soil. This isn't just about cleaning up. This is a deep, therapeutic process of reclaiming your territory from the chaos of your past. Let's start with the most obvious culprit: clutter. Every object in your home holds energy. It holds a memory, an obligation, a should. That pile of clothes on the chair isn't just a pile of clothes. It's a monument to decisions you didn't make. The stack of mail on the counter isn't just paper. It's a list of tasks you're avoiding, a physical representation of your procrastination. These things create a constant, subconscious hum of stress in your nervous system. Your brain sees them, registers them as incomplete tasks, and your body releases a tiny trickle of cortisol, the stress hormone. All day long. It's a silent drain on your energy, your focus, and your will to change. Here's where we begin the work. I want you to try something called the 5-thing rescue. Don't try to clean your whole house. That's overwhelming. The thought alone is exhausting. Instead, just stand in one room, your bedroom, your living room, wherever you are, and find 5 things that are out of place. Just 5. A coffee mug on the nightstand, a pair of shoes in the middle of the floor, a book that belongs on the shelf, a jacket slung over a chair, piece of trash. Now take those 5 things and put them where they belong. That's it. You're done for now. What did that take? 60 seconds? 90 maybe? But what you've just done is profound. You've sent a signal to your brain. You've said, I am in control here. I can exert order on my environment. I am not powerless. You've broken the spell of overwhelm. Tomorrow maybe you'll do 10 things. The day after, a single drawer. This isn't about a marathon cleaning session. It's about building a new habit of respect for your space, and therefore, for yourself. It's about treating the place you live as a sanctuary, not a storage unit for your anxieties. As you do this, you'll start to see objects not just as stuff, but as anchors to a past self. That t-shirt from a toxic job you quit 3 years ago? It's not just a t-shirt. It's a thread connecting you back to a time of misery. Letting it go isn't about getting rid of fabric. It's about cutting the thread. This is an archaeological dig into your own life. Each object you touch, you ask, does this support the person I am trying to become? Or does it belong to the person I'm leaving behind? Be ruthless in your kindness to your future self. Let the old stories go. Once we start clearing the physical clutter, we can move to the next level. Curating your sensory environment. We are creatures of sense. What we see, hear, smell, and feel profoundly impacts our emotional state. Your home can be either a source of sensory assault or a source of sensory nourishment. Let's talk about sound. Most of us live in a constant bath of noise. The television blaring in the background, the endless pings from our phones, the traffic outside. This noise keeps our nervous system in a state of high alert. What if you deliberately change the soundtrack? Try this. For just 1 hour a day, turn off the TV. Put on a playlist of calming instrumental music, or nature sounds, or even just embrace the silence. Notice how the tension in your shoulders starts to release. You're telling your body, you are safe. You can stand down from high alert. You are home. Now let's think about scent. Scent is the sense most closely tied to memory and emotion. A whiff of a certain perfume can transport you back to your grandmother's house. The smell of disinfectant can make you feel anxious, reminding you of a hospital. You can use this to your advantage. A simple essential oil diffuser can transform the entire feeling of a room. Lavender is scientifically proven to reduce anxiety and promote sleep. The scent of citrus can be uplifting and energizing. You're not just making your room smell nice. You're practicing a form of emotional alchemy, actively changing your brain chemistry with the air you breathe. And then there's light. Many of us live under harsh fluorescent lights that mimic the midday sun, telling our brains to be awake and alert, even late at night. This disrupts our natural circadian rhythms and makes it harder to rest. What if you swap those harsh overheads for a few soft lamps with warm-toned bulbs? What if you lit a candle in the evening? You are signaling to your body that the day is ending, that it's time to wind down, to rest, to heal. It's a simple, ancient form of self-care. By consciously curating the sights, sounds, and smells of your home, you are building what I call sensory scaffolding. You are creating an external environment that holds and supports the internal healing you're trying to do. You're making your home a partner in your recovery, an active participant in your journey toward peace. But in the modern world, there's another environment we inhabit, one that is just as cluttered and noisy as any physical room: our digital space. Your phone is not just a device, it's a place you live. And for many of us, that place is a chaotic, anxiety-inducing mess. The endless notifications, the cluttered home screen, the social media feeds filled with comparison and outrage. This is the new clutter. It's an invisible weight that follows us everywhere. So we must become gardeners of our digital worlds as well. Go into your phone settings right now and turn off all notifications except for those from actual human beings. Texts, phone calls. You do not need to be instantly alerted that someone liked your photo or that a store is having a sale. Those red bubbles are designed by psychologists to create a dopamine-seeking loop, a manufactured sense of urgency that hijacks your attention and drains your mental resources. Reclaim your focus. You decide when you look at your phone. Don't let it decide for you. Next, curate your feed. Your social media feed is the neighborhood your mind lives in. Who are your neighbors? Are they inspiring you, teaching you, making you laugh? Or are they making you feel inadequate, angry, and anxious? Unfollow, mute, and block with impunity. This isn't about being mean. It's about being the gatekeeper of your own mind. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your house and yell insults at you, so why do you let them do it through your phone? Fill your digital neighborhood with artists, thinkers, poets, and people who lift you up. Your entire outlook on the world can change simply by changing the information you feed your brain every day. By decluttering our physical space, curating our sensory world, and sanitizing our digital lives, we build a fortress of solitude. Not one of isolation, but one of intentional peace. We create a space where our nervous system can finally downshift from survival mode into a state of rest and repair. It becomes a sanctuary where the new identity we're trying to build has fertile ground to grow. It's a stage that is finally set for a new play, one where you are the hero of your own healing journey. But creating a sanctuary of physical and digital space is only part of the equation. The most powerful and often the most challenging part of our environment isn't the stuff we own or the apps on our phone. It's the people we let in. What about the human clutter? The relationships that drain our energy, reinforce our old negative stories, and hold us back from becoming the person we are meant to be. You can have the most peaceful home in the world, but one toxic phone call can shatter it all in an instant. How do we begin to garden the most important landscape of all, our social world? starts with a simple audit, a relationship inventory. Think of the 5 people you interact with the most: your partner, your best friend, your boss, your mother, your brother. Now, for each person, ask yourself a brutally honest question. After I talk to them, do I feel energized or do I feel drained? Do I feel bigger or do I feel smaller? Do I feel seen or do I feel used? Be honest. There's no judgment here, just data collection. This isn't about labeling people as good or bad. People are complex, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about the effect they have on you. The people who leave you feeling energized, seen, and uplifted, they are your sun and your water. They are the nutrients in your soil. The people who consistently leave you feeling drained, small, and exhausted, they are the weeds. They are the pests. They are the rocks in the soil that prevent anything from growing. And here's the hard truth. You can have the best seeds, the richest soil, and the perfect amount of sunlight, but if your garden is choked with weeds, nothing beautiful will ever have the space to bloom. Identifying these dynamics is the first and often most painful step. We make excuses. Oh, that's just how they are. They're family, I have to put up with it. They don't mean it. But intention doesn't negate impact. Someone can accidentally drop a brick on your foot. They didn't mean to, but your foot is still broken. Your pain is still real. In the world of mental well-being, impact is the only currency that matters. So, how do we start weeding? We build a fence. This fence is called a boundary. And for so many of us, the word boundary feels aggressive. Feels like a wall we're putting up. Feels like conflict. But that's a misunderstanding. A boundary isn't a wall to keep people out. It's a gate to let the right things in on your terms. It's not about controlling other people. It's about controlling your own participation. It's not saying, you can't do that. It's saying, I will not be around you when you do that. See the difference? The power shifts back to you. Let's make this practical. Imagine you have a family member who always calls to complain, dumping all their negativity onto you for an hour, and then hangs up, leaving you feeling like an emotional landfill. You dread their calls. Your stomach tightens when their name flashes on your screen. The old way is to answer, endure it, and then spend the rest of the day feeling heavy and resentful. The new way is to build a fence. The fence might sound like this. Hi, it's so good to hear from you. I've only got about 10 minutes before I have to jump on another call, but I wanted to see how you were. You've just set a time limit. You are in control. Or when they start the negativity spiral, the fence might sound like this. It sounds like you're going through a really tough time. I can't offer advice right now, but I'm sending you my support. I do have to go, but let's talk again soon. You've acknowledged their pain without taking it on as your own. You've shown compassion without sacrificing your peace. Boundaries can also be about topics of conversation. Maybe a friend constantly makes passive-aggressive jabs about your career choices. The boundary sounds like this. I've noticed that when we talk about my job, the conversation often feels tense. I value our friendship, so I prefer if we kept that topic off the table. It might feel awkward for a moment. They might push back. That's a test. They are rattling the fence to see if it's sturdy. Your only job is to hold it steady. You don't need to justify, argue, defend, or explain. Because it doesn't work for me is a complete sentence. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Now, what about the really invasive weeds? The ones that are so intertwined with the roots of your life that pulling them out feels like it might destroy everything. This is the hardest part of social gardening. This is pruning. Sometimes, a relationship dynamic is so consistently damaging that no amount of fence building is enough. This could be a friendship built on a foundation of jealousy, a romantic partner who belittles your dreams, or a family member who is emotionally manipulative. In these cases, creating distance or even cutting ties is not an act of cruelty. It is the ultimate act of self-preservation. It is the spiritual equivalent of a surgeon removing a tumor. It is painful, it is scary, and there will be a recovery period. You will grieve. You will feel guilty. Society has a strange way of glorifying loyalty, even loyalty to our own detriment. We are told to turn the other cheek, to be the bigger person. But what if being the bigger person means walking away? What if the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to say, I love you, but I cannot have you in my life right now. Think of your energy as a finite resource like a glass of water. Every day you wake up with a full glass. Every interaction either adds a little water to your glass or takes a little out. Those life-giving relationships? They are the springs that top you off. Those draining, toxic relationships? They are the tiny holes in the bottom of your glass, constantly leaking your precious life force. You can spend all your time trying to pour more water in, meditating, exercising, eating well. But if you don't plug the leaks, you will always end up empty. Pruning your social garden is about plugging those leaks once and for all. But here's the most beautiful part of this whole process. When you start pulling the weeds and building the fences, something miraculous happens. You create space. And in that new sun-drenched space, the things you actually want to grow finally have a chance. This is the final and most important step. Actively cultivating your flowers. Who are the people who top off your glass? The friend who listens without judgment? The partner who celebrates your wins as if they were their own? The mentor who sees potential in you that you can't even see in yourself? These are your people. And they deserve more of your time, more of your energy, more of your focus. So often our social lives are reactive. We respond to whoever is yelling the loudest, demanding the most attention, which are usually the weeds. Cultivating your flowers is about being proactive. Schedule a call with that friend who always makes you laugh. Send a text to your sibling just to say you appreciate them. Make a standing coffee date with a colleague who inspires you. Pour your energy into the soil that feeds you back. What you'll find is a powerful shift. As you invest more in these positive connections, your tolerance for the negative ones plummets. Your nervous system gets used to a new normal of peace, respect, and reciprocity. The drama and chaos of your old dynamics will start to feel jarring and unwelcome, like a loud noise in a quiet library. Your own standards will rise, not out of arrogance, but out of a deep, abiding respect for your own well-being. This isn't a one-time fix. A garden is a living thing. Weeds will always try to creep back in. Fences will sometimes need repairs. But you are the gardener. You hold the tools. You get to decide what grows in this precious space and what doesn't. You have the power to cultivate a social world that is a source of strength, joy, and deep nourishment, rather than a source of stress and depletion. This external work, this tending to the garden of our relationships, is profoundly healing. But it uncovers another layer. Once we clear out the external noise, we are often left alone with the noise that's been there all along. The noise inside our own minds. What happens when the person criticizing you, draining you, and making you feel small isn't someone else but yourself? How do we begin to set boundaries with the most relentless voice of all, our own inner critic? That voice is the ultimate ghost in the machine. It's the roommate who never pays rent, uses all the hot water, and leaves passive-aggressive notes on the fridge of your mind. It knows your deepest fears, your most embarrassing moments, and it has a PhD in pushing your buttons. It's the reason you can receive 100 compliments and only remember the one piece of criticism. It's the reason you lay awake at 3 in the morning, replaying a conversation from 10 years ago, convinced you said the wrong thing. We think of this inner critic as an enemy, a monster to be slain. We try to fight it, to argue with it, to shout it down. But what if I told you that fighting your inner critic is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline? The more you struggle, the stronger it gets, the louder it screams. The secret, the profound and counterintuitive truth, is that your inner critic isn't actually your enemy. It's your most primitive, misguided, and frankly terrible bodyguard. Think about it. Thousands of years ago, if you were kicked out of the tribe, you were dead. So, a part of your brain developed to be hypervigilant about social rejection and failure. Its job was simple. Keep you safe by making you small. Don't speak up, you might say something stupid. Don't try that new thing, you might fail. Don't trust that person, you might get hurt. It's a survival mechanism that hasn't had a software update in a very, very long time. It's an old, glitchy program running on the supercomputer of your modern brain. Its intentions are good, to protect you from pain, rejection, and failure. But its methods are brutal. It's like a smoke alarm that's so sensitive it goes off every time you make toast. It's trying to save you from a fire, but all it's doing is ruining your breakfast and making your ears ring. So how do we update this software? How do we retrain this overzealous bodyguard? We don't fight it. We befriend it. We don't try to silence it. We learn to understand its language. This begins with a simple, almost laughably easy first step. You have to separate yourself from the voice. You are not your inner critic. You are the one who hears it. This is a crucial distinction. You are the sky. The critic is just a dark cloud passing through. And to help create that separation, we're going to do something that feels silly at first, but is incredibly powerful. We're going to give it a name. Not a scary, monstrous name, a boring or even ridiculous one. Something like Gremlin Gary, or Nervous Nancy, or the Committee of Crotchety Old Men. Pick one right now. By giving it a name, you externalize it. It's no longer an intrinsic part of you. It's a character that shows up uninvited. Now, the practice is just to notice when it appears. When you spill coffee and that voice immediately chimes in with, "You're such a clumsy idiot." Instead of believing it, you simply observe. "Ah, there's Gary again." Right on cue. No judgment, no argument. Just a calm, detached observation. Gary's really worried about my coordination today. This act of noticing, of labeling, creates a tiny pocket of space between the thought and your reaction. And in that space, freedom is born. You're no longer fused with the criticism. You're the calm observer watching the show. Once you get good at noticing, we move to the next level. This is where we go from being an observer to being a compassionate detective. Instead of just noting Gary's presence, you're going to get curious. You're going to ask it a question, not with aggression but with genuine curiosity. You ask, "What are you trying to protect me from right now?" Let's play this out. Imagine you're about to give a presentation at work. Gremlin Gary pipes up loud and clear. "You're going to bomb this. Everyone will think you're an imposter. They're all going to laugh at you." The old you would either freeze in terror or try to argue. "No, I'm not. I'm prepared." Which Gary would just laugh at. The new you takes a breath and internally you ask, "Okay, Gary, I hear you. You're loud today. What are you so afraid of? What are you trying to protect me from?" And the answer, if you listen closely, will be something underneath the surface. It's not really about the presentation. The answer might be, "I'm trying to protect you from the shame of being rejected." Or, "I'm trying to protect you from the pain of not being seen as competent." Suddenly, it's not an attack anymore. It's a scared, misguided attempt to keep you safe from a perceived threat. You're not talking to a monster. You're talking to a scared child who thinks the only way to avoid getting hurt is to never leave the house. When you see the fear behind the criticism, your entire relationship with that voice changes. It transforms from a battle into a negotiation. You can feel empathy for it. This leads us to the final, most powerful step: the compassionate rebuttal and the pivot. You've noticed the voice. You've asked what it's afraid of. Now you respond with both kindness and authority. You are the CEO of your mind, and this bodyguard, while well-intentioned, does not get to make the final decisions. The response has two parts. First, you validate its concern. You thank it. This is disarming. You say, "Thank you, Gary. I understand you're trying to protect me from feeling embarrassed. I appreciate you looking out for me." You're acknowledging its protective intent. This calms the nervous system. You're telling the smoke alarm, "I hear you, I know you think there's a fire. Thank you for the warning." Then comes the second part, the pivot. You gently but firmly state the new reality. This is where you bring in a new voice, the voice of your inner advocate, your inner mentor. You say, "But I've got this. I am prepared. It's important for me to do this even if I'm nervous. And if I do make a mistake, I will handle it. I will survive feeling embarrassed. I am capable and resilient." You're not saying, "You're wrong, Gary." You're saying, "I hear your concern and I am choosing a different path." You're reparenting that fearful part of yourself. Over time, you are building a new neural pathway. You are consciously creating a kinder, more encouraging inner dialogue. You are building the voice you always needed to hear. This isn't a one-and-done fix. It's a practice. It's like going to the gym for your mind. First, it feels awkward. Your inner critic will be loud and persistent. But every time you notice it, get curious and respond with compassion, you do one more rep. You strengthen that muscle of self-awareness and self-compassion. Slowly but surely, the voice of the critic loses its volume. It doesn't vanish entirely. It's part of our wiring after all, but it no longer sits in the driver's seat. It moves to the passenger seat and eventually to the back seat. It might still shout out bad directions from time to time, but you are the one with your hands on the wheel. You are the one choosing the destination. You have learned to set boundaries with others, to protect your energy from the outside world. This is the final frontier, learning to set a boundary on the inside. It's about creating a safe, internal home where you can be messy, imperfect, and still be worthy of kindness, especially from yourself. We've journeyed through the external world of boundaries and the internal world of the mind, but what is the one single practice that weaves all of this together? What is the master key that unlocks lasting change and turns these steps from a temporary fix into a permanent way of being? The answer is deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful. It's the invisible thread holding everything together, the quiet force that makes every other step possible. That master key is self-compassion. Now hold on. I know what some of you might be thinking. Self-compassion? Isn't that just a fancy word for self-pity? For making excuses? For letting yourself off the hook when you should be trying harder? It is one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of mental health, and that misunderstanding is the very cage that keeps so many of us trapped. Let's be crystal clear about what self-compassion is not. It is not self-indulgence. It is not sitting on the couch eating ice cream all day telling yourself it's okay to avoid your problems. In fact, true self-compassion is often the exact opposite. It's having the courage to do the hard things, to have the difficult conversation, to set the terrifying boundary, to get up and go for that walk when every cell in your body wants to stay under the covers, precisely because you care about your future well-being. It's parenting yourself with kindness, not with criticism. Self-compassion isn't self-pity. Self-pity gets lost in the story. It says, "Poor me, why does this always happen to me?" And it isolates you from the world. Self-compassion, on the other hand, connects you. It recognizes a fundamental truth. To be human is to be imperfect. To struggle is part of the shared human experience. When you fail or make a mistake, self-pity whispers, "You're the only one this stupid." Self-compassion puts a hand on your shoulder and says, "Welcome to the club. We all mess up. It's okay. What can we learn from this?" So what is it, then? Dr. Kristen Neff, the leading researcher on this topic, breaks it down into 3 core components. First, there's self-kindness. This is the active practice of treating yourself with the same warmth, gentleness, and support you would offer a dear friend who is going through the exact same thing. Think about it. When a friend calls you distraught because they made a mistake at work, what do you say? You don't scream at them. "You're an idiot. You're going to get fired. You've ruined everything." No. You say, "Hey, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. Feels awful right now, but you're going to get through this. What can I do to help?" Self-kindness is simply turning that same voice inward. Second, there's a sense of common humanity. This is the antidote to the poison of isolation. It's the profound realization that you are not alone in your suffering. Your pain, your insecurities, your failures, they don't make you weird or broken. They make you human. When you internalize this, the shame that thrives in secrecy begins to wither. You stop seeing your struggles as proof of your personal deficiency and start seeing them as part of the rich, messy, and universal tapestry of human life. And third, there's mindfulness. And there it is again. The practice we started with. But here it's applied with a compassionate lens. It means acknowledging your painful thoughts and feelings without judgment, but also without getting swept away by them. You don't ignore your pain, but you don't let it become your entire identity either. You hold it with a balanced awareness, observing it with curiosity and saying, "Ah, there is that feeling of anxiety again. Hello, old friend. I see you," rather than, "Oh my God, I am anxiety." This is the master key because it supercharges every single tool we have discussed. Remember reframing your negative thoughts? That inner critic that tells you you're not good enough? Trying to fight it with pure logic is exhausting. But when you apply self-compassion, you don't just fight the thought, you comfort the part of you that is scared. You can say, "I understand why you're thinking that. You're afraid of failing. It's okay to be afraid. But that thought is not the whole truth of who I am." Suddenly, you're not at war with yourself anymore. You're nurturing yourself. Remember learning to sit with difficult emotions? Without self-compassion, that can feel like punishment. But with it, it becomes an act of profound care. You're not just tolerating the sadness or the anger. You're giving it space to exist, telling it, "You are allowed to be here. You make sense." You're giving yourself permission to be a complete human being with a full spectrum of feelings. And boundaries? This is where self-compassion becomes your unbreakable shield. Why is it so hard to say no? Because we fear being seen as selfish or unkind. We put others' comfort above our own peace. Self-compassion is the radical act of deciding that your peace matters too. You set a boundary not to punish the other person, but to honor and protect yourself. It comes from a place of self-worth, not a place of anger. It's the ultimate act of self-care. So how do we practice this? How do we build this muscle? Start small. The first and most powerful tool is to ask yourself one simple question whenever you notice that inner critic flare up. What would I say to a friend? In that moment of self-judgment, literally pause and imagine a friend you love and respect is telling you they just did the exact same thing you did. Write down what you would say to them, then read it back to yourself. That is the voice you are trying to cultivate. Second, use physical touch. This sounds strange, but it's backed by science. Placing a hand over your heart, gently stroking your arm, Or even giving yourself a hug can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, releasing oxytocin and calming you down. It's a physical gesture of comfort that your brain registers as care and safety. It's a way of saying, "I'm here for you," without speaking a word. Third, create a self-compassion mantra. When you're in the thick of a difficult moment, have a few phrases ready. It can be as simple as, "This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment." This little script does all three things. It acknowledges your pain mindfully, connects you to common humanity, and offers you self-kindness. This 10-part journey we've been on, from understanding the chaos of our minds to building a toolkit of practical strategies, it was never about reaching some mythical destination of perfect mental health, where you never feel sad or anxious again. That place doesn't exist. This was about giving you a compass for when you get lost in the woods of your own mind. A compass that, no matter how dark it gets, always points you back to your own inherent worth. Healing is not a linear race to a finish line. It is a spiral dance. You will circle back to old feelings, old patterns. You will have days where you feel like you've made no progress at all. And that is okay. The goal is not to never fall down. The goal is to learn how to pick yourself up with a little more grace, a little more kindness each and every time. Your past does not have to be your prison. Your anxiety does not have to be your identity. Your inner critic does not have to be the loudest voice in your head. You have the power to change the relationship you have with yourself. And that relationship is the foundation for everything else in your life. It's the only relationship you are guaranteed to have from the moment you are born until the moment you die. Make it a kind one. Make it a supportive one. Make it a compassionate one. Your healing is not a debt you owe to the world. It is not something you do to be more productive or a better partner or a better parent. Those things may happen as a result, but they are not the reason. You pursue healing for one reason and one reason only, because you are worthy of it. You are worthy of peace. You are worthy of kindness. You are worthy of a life where you are your own greatest ally, not your own worst enemy. Start today. Start now. With one small compassionate choice. One kind thought. You are worth the effort.